Coming to post-tricuspid physiology. So what is this post-tricuspid shunt physiology? We'll see here now. Till now we saw pre-tricuspid. Post-tricuspid, whatever is beneath the tricuspid valve, whatever the shunts are there, what could be the probable shunts which are there in post-tricuspid or after the tricuspid in the ventricles? VSD, yes, definitely yes. So we'll see this, we'll know about what happens to this VSD. Now what does VSD mean? Ventricular septal defect. Means when there is formation of the ventricular septum, there is some defect which is this defect is causing some shunt of the blood to the next chamber. Okay, now you can see here on that, if this is the left ventricle and this is the septum, the blood has gone here like this. This is called as VSD. So now this VSD is small shunt or the small defect. Now this, based on how much the defect is also the one which is also one of the most important factor for the blood to get transferred. Imagine it is very small or it is very huge. What happens to the blood, whether it will go to right ventricle only or what happens, we'll see now. Okay, so that's why here next thing I want to explain is the size dependency of shunt. Okay, imagine it is very small like here. When there is small form of VSD, like what usually in your book it is written that less than 0.5 mm is called as restrictive VSD. I will tell you again like what they have told that. Okay, small VSD means is it giving the left ventricle a higher amount of resistance or least amounts of resistance? Excellent. Okay, small VSD will always give higher resistance, whereas if it is a large VSD, okay, so least or less resistance. After knowing this point, okay, now this will be the one which is going to help us to know that how the shunt depends and how the hemodynamics depend. Okay, now what they have done is, okay, they have labeled something called as obligatory shunt or dependent shunt, because what happened, it's not only just that all the cases of ventricular septal defects are only small or only huge. No, what happens, the blood to shift from left to right also some amount of mechanisms are required. Imagine if it is very small, okay, very unlikely that you are expecting very huge amount of blood to shift. Okay, if it is but very huge, okay, imagine the septum, the defect is very huge, you obviously know that left ventricular pressure is more and obviously it will get shifted to right ventricles, definitely you know that. But more than this, I want to tell that even when the blood wants to shift here, important that thing is the outflow tract of right ventricle, means right ventricular outflow, it depends more on that. Okay, if a shunt is there, imagine if the sizes of VSD is dependent on the pulmonary resistance. Imagine now there is no pulmonary resistance at all. So okay, so what happens then, there is more is that the blood might go from left to right. Fine. So we'll see this now. What is called as obligatory shunt or dependent shunt. Okay, by this thing you would have got to know that when the shunt is very small, okay, it is purely dependent on what, the pressure in the left ventricle, so that is called as obligatory, means it is not dependent on pulmonary pressures or pulmonary outlets, that is obligatory. Very small shunt. Small shunts, they will behave as obligatory. And dependent, okay, when the shunt or the defect is large, what happens, it depends on the pulmonary resistance. Okay, now actually you got to know that what is a dependent shunt and what is a obligatory shunt. Okay, now I have shown here in this diagram, you can see here, okay, we'll label it fast as, okay, this is right atrium, right ventricle, usse pulmonary artery nikal raha hai, ye left ventricle. Okay, and you can see the defect here is VSD. Okay, I'll try to explain you what actually happens in infant and why this VSD is presenting itself earlier in infancy, or why it doesn't, why it presents so fast. Okay. Now what here, now in small VSD is there. Now I have showed here in one side of lung, like the lung over here is small, the which I have marked right now. It is small. Small means it is stiff, means telling you that the pulmonary vascular resistance is still there. Okay. Pulmonary vascular resistance is still there so much. Once when pulmonary vascular resistance is there, do you think the left ventricle ka blood will come to right ventricle? Very unlikely. When the lungs are stiff, there is increased pulmonary vascular resistance, which will not let the left to right shunt occur. Okay, left to right shunt not possible. Left to right shunt not much possible. Okay, but the moment, now what has happened, in the other side of diagram here, the other side, what I have drawn a very huge lung. Means this is telling that it took like for example, like see what happens, why this presents after some 6 to 8 months of the child growing, the lungs will obviously grow. Now here you can see this side of lung is very huge. Here the pulmonary vascular resistance has decreased. Once when the decrease, that is when the shunt started coming from left to right. Okay, when the then the extra amount of blood started going into right ventricle. This could be the time, and this around after 6 to 8 months only they'll start presenting it to the OPDs. Okay, and this also could be the reason why they might as well directly come to us directly after some 6 to 8 months as congenital as cardiac congestive heart failure. Okay, so after some 6 to 8 months CHF might be possible. Okay, now to know this shunts properly in detail, what we'll do is we'll do some small experiments. Okay, what we'll do is first we'll take a small shunt, we'll see how it behaves. Okay, then we'll try to increase the size of shunt, as in how we'll see. Then okay, small, moderate shunt, then large. Okay, what happens in small we'll see, since resistance is more. Left to right shunt is bare, is minimal, you can write. So when left to right shunt is minimal, what do you expect with right ventricle to behave? Will it get hypertrophied? Very unlikely. So the changes on X-ray are also very minimal. Just X-ray changes minimal or bare. Now what we'll do, this was small, so because it was giving good resistance, the amount of blood to go to right ventricle was less, so changes also were less. Now what we'll do, we'll increase the size of that shunt or the VSD. We'll see what happens. In moderate VSD, we'll see what happens. But even before I tell you what is this this thing, I have told you just now, like small, moderate and large this thing, sizes of VSD. Now what this actually, the correspondence or the way they are categorized as small, medium and large, that is depending on the aortic annulus. Okay, the aortic annulus of that, if it is less than 1/3, then it is categorized as around small. If it is meeting almost around 50% of the aortic annulus, the size the shunt is as big as 50% of the aortic annulus, then like 1/3 to this thing, half of it. So 50% of it, then it is categorized as moderate, or more like, then when it is almost equivalent to that aortic annulus, okay, then we will categorize large. Okay, now once when we have told moderate, you see here that from the left to right the blood is traveling more. Now it has come to right ventricle. Now once when it has come to right ventricle, am I telling that it is going increasing way to pulmonary artery? Pulmonary artery to lungs also it has gone more. Then later again from there to pulmonary veins. Then pulmonary veins to left atrium. Then it comes to left ventricle. Okay, here there are some changes seen. Usually what happens, I'll tell you here only. What happens, left atrial and ventricular changes, they'll start appearing here. But they were not so much evident in small VSDs. Now what do you think, that is there chances of right ventricular hypertrophy here? How can you expect that right ventricular hypertrophy to occur? Because it has gone from left to right, it has gone. It can happen only once the same physiology or the same hemodynamics has occurred for longer period of time. But if you see that moderate VSD, usually what happens, blood is going from left to right. At what time it is going? Actually, most of the shunt is occurring when it systoles. Then during systole, only left will get systole, even right will get systole. So the amount of blood getting shifted to right is comparatively little less, because entirely. And what happens, this on long runs and multiple circulations, the extra volume will be the one which is causing right ventricular hypertrophy, and that will require more. Important than this, I want to tell that more the load on right ventricle, the load is falling more on left ventricle, because it has to pump larger amounts of volume, and it has to press against the systemic resistance. That is why what we expect around might to around large VSD, it is about to see, what we will expect the changes more to occur in left ventricle. Okay, so left ventricle hypertrophy you can see. Okay, okay, now but in large VSD, now we'll see what happens. Large VSD means it is as good as amount of that annulus. We'll see now. Left to right, it is very huge, that it is almost like this. Okay, in this large VSD, what is happening? Not only the, now imagine, now the, it was so much small, like it was very small, very little shunt. Now it became moderate. Now it became this big. Entire this thing is going like this. Entire the left side this thing volume is going to right. Now we'll see what is happening here. When it is going like that, now the pressure, now the, because the gate or the VSD increase so much, it is not only the volume shift, it is even the pressure shift which is affecting the right side now. Okay, not only the volume shift and even the pressure. Here the first effect you can see is RVH only. It will immediately, it will form RVH. Now when so much huge amount of is going to RVH, where do you think the entire blood should go? Entire blood from right ventricle, it should go to pulmonary artery. Then very soon they will form what? Pulmonary arterial hypertension, and they will even end up with left atrial enlargement and left ventricle hypertrophy very soon. But now I have told you yesterday only, or in the previous class, that pulmonary arterial hypertension, how, what and all it occurs, that medial hypertrophy, pulmonary hypertension can occur. And again I will tell you again that it is exaggerated hemodynamics now, not as prolonged hemodynamics as it was in ASD, because now size got increased. It is not only the volume which is entering, even the pressure which is affecting here now. Because of that, even if it is for shorter duration also, these things can come up. But again and again I tell you, very unlikely that you will see a VSD case to be presenting to you with pulmonary hypertension. If it has presented to you with pulmonary hypertension, means definitely the VSD is very huge. Okay, and this pulmonary hypertension could have happened because of medial hypertrophy, because of intimal fibrosis. And another thing which I forgot, intimal fibrosis, once it occurs, what is that called as? Once intimal fibrosis occur, the pressure on the right ventricle has increased so much that the shunt will change its direction from left to right to left. What is that called as? Eisenmenger syndrome. Eisenmenger कौन है? Eisenmenger syndrome, it is named after this guy called as Victor Eisenmenger. Okay, Victor Eisenmenger. But another thing which I want to tell, once when this Eisenmenger has happened, it is irreversible, and the only treatment available is what? Heart lung transplantation. Both heart lung transplantation, heart and lung transplantation. Okay, okay, fine. So you got to know what are the what and all we did. First we did a small VSD, then moderate, then large. So you are expecting these things to occur more floridly in large VSD. Now again next we'll see what and all to do now next. We shall see now how this VSD hemodynamics would change if it is associated with some other anomalies like VSD. Now we are going to discuss VSD with pulmonary stenosis physiology. We'll see that. You can see here VSD with pulmonary stenosis physiology, they require two mandatory things. They are what? They are VSD which is large enough to equalize the pressure in ventricles. Then what kind of VSD is this I am talking? That is definitely what? A large VSD only. Okay, moderate to large VSD, where in that only the right ventricular, the left and right ventricular pressures will be equal. And there is something which I have written here as RVOT. RVOT is nothing but right ventricular outflow tract. Okay, that is RVOT. Now we have written here RVOT stenosis or obstruction. RVOT or right ventricular outflow, right ventricle will give its outflow to where? To pulmonary artery. Okay. Now when the pulmonary artery has gone stenosed or it is obstructed, that's where this physiology is coming into play. That's what is the basic needed. Now associated with all these anomalies like VSD with pulmonary stenosis or infundibular stenosis, with this is usually seen in cyanotic congenital heart disease, and that is called as what? TOF. Okay. Tetralogy of Fallot. In that, the two main things are VSD and next important thing is pulmonary stenosis. Third one is overriding of aorta. The fourth one is RVH. Now, for you to know this physiology or this cyanotic congenital heart disease, only two things are important here. One is VSD, another one is pulmonary stenosis. Based on this degree of severity of RVOT or right ventricular outflow tract obstruction, you can divide this cases or the scenario into two given things. When imagine now this right ventricular this is the right ventricle. If it is emptying itself into pulmonary artery, this stenosis is very mild, and this is the VSD here, moderate sized VSD. Stenosis is mild. When the stenosis is mild, then the left ventricle output will go, the left blood will go to right ventricle very easily. Okay, and we'll see what happens with this. Right. Okay. With milder stenosis, milder degree of this, what happens? It will start behaving like left-right shunt as we have seen in VSD. So this kind of pulmonary stenosis with all the other things like overriding of aorta with RVH and with VSD, this kind of TOF or this kind of tetralogy of Fallot, they are called as what? Pink Fallows. Okay. On the this thing, like on the contrary, if you increase the degree of that pulmonary stenosis, if it is more to severe amount of pulmonary stenosis, what happens then? Once when the pulmonary artery pressure has increased or pulmonary stenosis is too much, what happens? The right ventricular pressure is increased. It is increased to such a level that it will start putting for this thing, it will start behaving, the left to right shunt starts behaving in a right to left shunt. Okay. So that time the deoxygenated blood will get mixed with oxygenated blood, and that is called as cyanotic TOF. Most of the tetralogy of Fallot which they present with cyanotic TOF only. But I want to tell you another thing. There is more worse condition than this. When if this pulmonary stenosis has a pulmonary valve, if this pulmonary valve is stenosis, then we saw mild and moderate how it was behaving. What if it was atretic, means there was no that valve at all, this complete closure, no like completely called as pulmonary atresia. VSD with pulmonary atresia, that time what happens? Not even single amount, like not even 5 ml of blood can go to the pulmonary arteries. So that time what happens? That time the important thing for this baby to survive, because there only one ventricle is the one which is pumping, that is going to be the left. Important stuff or important this thing, what is say, structure here for the baby to keep survival of this baby is a requirement of ductus arteriosus. Okay, the ductus arteriosus must be patent. So that will behave like what lesions? That will behave like duct dependent lesions. Only if the duct is there, then only the baby will survive. That's how the pulmonary blood can go to pulmonary lungs, and that's how it can get oxygenated, and again it gets mixed. Duct dependent lesion will behave with pulmonary atresia. Okay. Now we can see here one small diagram I have drawn here. We shall label this first. This is left atria, this is right atria, right ventricle, this is left ventricle, and this whatever now next in further class also, wherever the pink is there, the pink is going to be infundibular stenosis or pulmonary stenosis. Okay. Okay, and this is VSD. Now here I have shown the VSD is very small. Once the VSD is very small, it will start behaving like pink TOF. small VSD will behave like hardly any sinus is there. Okay. Now once when I'll have explained you this, we'll see what happens to the changes here. Now you can see here again the same diagram, but we shall try to see what are the hemodynamical changes now occurring. Because now the amount of pressure, the amount of volume is more because of the larger VSD. Which chamber do you think could be the first one to get enlarged? Here it is going to be from left, it is going to right. So right ventricle is the one which will undergo right ventricular hypertrophy. With this right ventricular hypertrophy, why it is happening this first? Because there is pulmonary stenosis also. The pressure is also acting and even the volume is also acting. That is why here what happened, the right ventricular hypertrophy occurred very first. So, and that is also one of the important feature for to diagnose as TOF. Okay. Now once we'll see, now I want to tell you very properly here that this whatever the structures are there, now the degree of infundibular stenosis or pulmonary stenosis, how that is going to matter. In this first structure A, this infundibular stenosis is very small, and I'll tell you what are the changes or hemodynamical changes, and it is like, okay, not small, this it is, it's better we write like mild stenosis. Okay, now this is severe stenosis. Mild stenosis, the blood can easily go like this. The blood can easily go like this, and this right ventricular hypertrophy has also occurred. And another thing which I'll tell you here, and which will be helpful for us to differentiate here. I have to tell you one point that now the moment the blood is going excess into the pulmonary artery, if you auscultate this pulmonary artery, what are you able to find here now? Auscultate. Here we can find ejection systolic murmur because of flow murmur going through this thing. Now once we are discussing this murmur, why don't you think that VSD is having murmur? That can create what murmur? Pansystolic murmur, no? Then why am I talking more first about ejection systolic murmur? Yeah? Because in TOF cases, never you will be able to hear VSD ka murmur, because the VSD is such a big thing there, it is equalizing the pressure of left ventricle and right ventricle. So the shunt murmur is not heard in VSD. Whereas you will be able to hear what murmur? Pulmonary ejection systolic murmur, better heard in left pulmonary area, okay, left second intercostal space. Okay, this is one thing which I want to tell you. And okay, now we will see what happens in severe stenosis. Severe stenosis, maybe the ejection systolic murmur would be there, definitely. But this severe, now see, mild stenosis was there, blood was able to go inside. Mild stenosis, compare with severe stenosis, blood is not able to go inside. Now which one do you think will create more murmur? No, wrong. What happens, mild stenosis means there is some amount of blood flow, turbulent flow hai wahan par. Mild means some turbulent flow is there. That is when you are able to hear long and loud ejection systolic murmur is better heard in mild pulmonary stenosis. Okay. So what is the correlation which we can get? That this intensity and duration of murmur is inversely proportional to severity of pulmonary stenosis. Okay. We'll write here intensity and duration of murmur is what? Inversely proportional to severity. Okay, if I write anywhere PS, it is going to be pulmonary stenosis. Okay. Okay, now if you actually see this, how could be the heart size apart from this right ventricular hypertrophy which I have discussed? Heart size, right ventricle has come it has become bigger. What happens to left atrium and ventricle? Are you expecting more to be there? No, don't expect. Only right ventricular hypertrophy is seen very classical in TOF cases. Whereas now what happens because of this, why I'll tell you another thing. Because now entire volume is getting shifted easily to right ventricle, and that is getting shifted to pulmonary, and you have already know that pulmonary circulation can hold as good as 100% of cardiac output. Do you think now there is possibility of any cardiac failure here? Cardiac failure? How? Okay, if you are thinking that in terms that both ventricles, now VSD is big, both ventricles are same, we'll again discuss this in detail, both ventricles are same, and that amount, either there must be very bad obstruction or atresia of pulmonary or atresia of aortic stenosis, that's when they'll go for CHF. But once when this kind of this thing is there, where severe amount of stenosis is there, very unlikely that you will able to hear or you will able to have the congestive heart failure. Why? Because imagine now right ventricle is the one which is affected now. If it has to go for failure, it has to have complete obstruction of pulmonary stenosis, which is usually not there. Okay, means atresia must be there. If atresia is there, then that's when the duct dependent lesion will start. Now that is not there. Imagine now this is infundibular stenosis this much. This ventricle, if it is not able to empty itself either into pulmonary or into left ventricle, that's when we call it as right ventricular failure. But what happens once it is about to get failure, either it is pushing very hard itself against that pulmonary stenosis resistance, or it is emptying itself little into left ventricle. That is why this is the reason why we can't see cardiac failure in tough cases. Okay, fine. Now actually, if you see this, okay, now before even I go ahead with this thing, I have written here on the screen, I'll highlight this. Concept of hypoxic spell, we shall discuss it here only, okay, because once when you got to know this, what actually determines the amount of pulmonary blood flow, just now you had that doubt to know, okay, what actually determines that? There is another multiple concepts here. I have shown here in this diagram here, you can see that it's like entirely one, the VSD is such a big thing I have drawn there, that it is such like both left ventricle is there, this right ventricle is there like this. From right ventricle, the pulmonary arteries are rising, and here from aorta is arising like this. It is behaving like a single ventricle now. Now, if I have to press like this, where it has to happen, or what has, whether it will cause cyanosis or it will cause no cyanosis. If it, who will decide that? That decision is taken by the amount of blood flow to the pulmonary blood flow depending on the stenosis, and depending even, can I tell, it can even depend on aortic pressure or the resistance which is offered to aorta by the system. हो सकता है systemic vascular resistance, if that is there, imagine if that is if systemic vascular resistance is too much, then what do you think? It is more than this pulmonary, means what do you think the right this thing, then what happens if SVR is very much, what happens? The this thing, okay, fine. When SVR is too much, the blood can't go into aorta. SVR is too much, blood can't go into aorta. So what happens? It will shift from left to right only, and most of the blood will force itself to the this thing, stenosed pulmonary valve. We'll see this here. I have drawn here. I have written there something called as QPQS. That is okay. Sorry. Okay. This is pulmonary blood flow. Q is nothing but the perfusion or the this thing flow. Or next S is what? Systemic blood flow. Fine. I have seen, okay, you have seen here. Now imagine, now this stenosis here in pulmonary vascular resistance, if it is too much. Okay, what happens? If it is too much, it can't go into right ventricle. So what happens? The blood will start shifting again, it will come here to here, then right to left shunt occurs. So that's when the cyanosis worsen. Okay, now we'll see again in detail. Now what they had thought, actually there is this thing called as, what do you say? There is this concept of this entire QP by QS ratios, where what they are trying to tell you is that the flow in the pulmonary vessel and the flow in the this thing systemic or aortic vessel, based on that, how can you actually get to know the physiology of cyanotic spell, what actually usually happens in this tetralogy of fallow babies. Okay, there is this one thing called as, there is this ratio of QP by QS. If you take the ratio, that how actually, if we want to utilize here, the degree of right ventricular outflow tract obstruction by the systemic vascular resistance. Okay, means QP by QS ratio, if we try to see QP by QS ratio, if you try to see the resistance offered by the pulmonary and the resistance offered by systemic. Now actually this can worsen, because once when the I told you just now that pulmonary stenosis, if it is very much, then it can cause right to left shunt. So suddenly what happens, right to left shunt happens, what happens to arterial saturation in the body? It obviously drops. Okay, this drop in arterial saturation, can I tell that there was drop in oxygen also overall? The drop in oxygen, what happened at the cellular level? Whatever was happening at aerobic respiration, it came to anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration will give you what? Will give you end product as a pyruvic acid. Anaerobic will give end product as lactic acid. Pyruvic acid is again utilized in Krebs cycle, and the aerobic respiration will end itself creating 36 ATPs, whereas anaerobic hardly 2 ATPs. So on just because of this, what happened? Can I tell because of this accumulation of lactic acid, the pH also dropped? Definitely yes. Now where did all ash start? There is this hypothesis of this infundibular stenosis. What they tell, I have drawn here. Okay, this hypothesis. Okay, I'll highlight this. Means for see you this and all the mechanism you saw, because the right ventricular left shunt occurred, and because of that decrease this thing, the hypoxia, acidosis, and this thing what is it? Now because of all this, from where did this all start? At the infundibular stenosis or the pulmonary stenosis. What they have told, or there is one hypothesis that I have drawn here. I'll label it first. Okay, that this is adventitia, this is muscular layer, and this is intima. Okay, now there is this hypothesis. What they are telling, one group of scientists or author, they are believing that this pulmonary stenosis valve is there, or that whatever the structure of pulmonary trunk is there, that is the one which will undergo this constriction, and that is the one which is responsible for this right ventricular pressure to increase, and it will cause right to left shunt, then this further hypoxia, then acidosis, everything happens. But recently they have identified this muscular layer. I have drawn here with green things. This muscular layer of this infundibulum, or this entire pulmonary artery, it is not just having a muscular layer. It is actually muscular, like it is disarranged muscular layer with fibrosis in between them. So, and they are supplied by this sympathetic nerve supply, sympathetic chains also. Once when they are so much disorderly arranged and they are having fibrosis in between, very unlikely that they are the one responsible to start of this event of even cyanotic spell. Okay, very unlikely. So now what could be the one which is triggering that cyanotic spell? We'll see. Okay, that is why I told earlier only that you must understand what is that QP by QS ratio. SVR means systemic vascular resistance. If that is the one which is increased. Now for example, what I'll do is systemic vascular resistance, if we want to increase it, or we'll see what happens. Imagine now baby is there, it is crying a lot, crying, or it is doing physical exertion, or the child is walking. Now child is having cough, he is running around, he is playing some this thing. Muscles will start working. What happens to vascular resistance? SVR, systemic vascular resistance. Systemic vascular resistance, the arteries and all, they'll start supplying to those muscles which are working. So as the resistance will fall down, once when the resistance fall down, what happens? This right sided blood will come to the left side, and this cyanosis occurs. So what you got to know now? Any cry, strain and all, they are all what? Decreasing the systemic vascular resistance. Okay, they are decreasing systemic vascular resistance, and fine, and these are the one which is causing this right to left shunt and further. Okay, now we'll try to label this. Now this we actually did with dropping of systemic vascular resistance. Now keep this thing in mind right now, because doing opposite of this or increasing the systemic vascular resistance could be the one which can end this physiology, or which we can curtail this problem of this child with cough. Now we'll see. Now see in this flow chart, or in this I have written here very the first here right to left shunt. This is right to left shunt. Means imagine now, because of this thing, drop in SVR. Drop in SVR, wait, it is seen because of what? Child crying, child having physical exertion like running or whatever. Okay, these can do what? These can drop the SVR. You can see, okay, I'll highlight this. Drop in SVR. Drop in SVR will cause what? Left to right shunt. Left to right shunt will again cause, just now I have told you, it will drop in saturation of oxygen. Then again what? It will drop the pH. Then it will cause acidosis. Okay, drop in PaO2 also. Now once when there is this drop in PaO2, what do you think the body will think now? Who are the fellows now? Body will start thinking, oh, this PaO2 is dropped, so what I should do? I should stimulate the centers, and it will stimulate respiratory centers, and it will cause hyperapnea. But when the child is hyperapneic, what is the worst thing happening there is that the systemic venous return are increasing. Systemic venous return is increasing means deoxygenated blood is again coming back more to right ventricle. Okay, so this is now, see, you can see here hyperapnea. It is increasing systemic venous return. Once when systemic venous return is increasing, again what is happening to this right to left shunt? That is again increasing. That this systemic venous return is again increasing right to left shunt. Okay. Now I have in this, you can see whatever the whatever the black things are there, they are the one which is causing the child to have cyanotic spell. Okay, this will write here only. Okay, we'll write. Okay, this is a cyanotic spell. This is one of the, what is it? One of the 5 markers for you, where just drawing this simple diagram might fetch you as much as good marks for you. Okay, the moment the child is having cyanotic spell, what are the important thing which you are supposed to write first? First and foremost only I'll tell you, that is disappearance of the murmur. Okay, okay, next there is good amount of cyanosis which is seen. Okay, now okay, you saw this entire flow chart. Another thing which I want to tell you here, whatever the things have been marked in red box in this, they are the one which are going to cut this cycle in between. Now this cycle, it ends up in a very vicious circle, and it goes on happening. This hypoxia again will decrease the SVR, again will worsen the RVR, right to left shunt, again it will cause acidosis, again it will cause hyperapnea, again this continues. But we want to cut it here. Multiple places we can cut here. Now what are the things? I'll go on writing. Now here, whatever the things are right in red, they are going to be the treatment for your cyanotic spell. Okay, here the first and foremost I'll tell you, you must give something called as, very immediately, give oxygen. That is good. Oxygen can help here, but still more important than that, next here in this box, first box, I am writing morphine. What? This morphine, they'll try to depress the respiratory centers. Once when they depress the respiratory centers, they will inhibit the hyperapnea. And hyperapnea got reduced means what will again? Systemic venous return will reduce. Now we will see another thing. Now, can there be anywhere else where we can reduce this venous return? We want to reduce this venous return, or we want to increase the SVR. Can we do anything? By yeah, one is vasoconstriction, definitely. But now you don't have any drug. You are seeing the baby. You are knowing that the child was having cough. The child is lying down because he is hyperapneic now. What we'll do? Yes, we will put him into knee chest position. Okay. We will put him into knee chest. The moment you put into knee chest position means entire the knees are compressed, or entire the hips are flexed over the chest. Once when that happens, what happens? Systemic or the venous pooling will be there in the leg only. So the venous return is reduced to the right side of the heart. One is that thing. Another thing I'll tell you, when you flex that hip, Femorals are compressed. Femorals are compressed means they are very major veins of what? Aorta. So when they are compressed, the pressure is increased or decreased? Pressure is increased. That same back pressure goes to aorta. Aorta will go back to pressure. That same pressure will go and in this aorta now. Increased aorta, or can I tell that it is increasing systemic vascular resistance also? Definitely yes. Knee chest position, not only it not only it reduced the venous return, it also counteracted the drop in SVR by increasing the SVR. It increases SVR. Okay. Red ones are all, they are cutting off. Now whatever the red I have marked here, they are all inhibiting the things. Okay, fine. Now as you told, this drop in SVR can also be brought about by some of the drugs. If you have access to some drugs, okay, one drug will write here, phenylephrine. This is a MCQ point of view, phenylephrine, because phenylephrine can directly raise systemic vascular resistance. Next important drug, okay, but very unlikely that you would have known, is ketamine. Ketamine has two effects now. Ketamine will not only increase the SVR, it will even help the child to sedate. So hyperapnea, that crying, that allergic, everything will reduce. Okay, ketamine will, okay, wait, we shall write here. Okay, not this side. Ketamine will decrease SVR, will also calm the child. Oh, sorry. Okay. No. Just a minute. I will recorrect here. Ketamine will increase SVR. Sorry. I have written here decrease. Okay. That's how it is being used as treatment. Fine. Another drugs which you can remember, which could be there, or which you know of, which have, beta blocker or propranolol. But I want to tell you that propranolol, the way it acts on propranolol, it can act both acutely or chronically. Means in acute crisis also you can give this propranolol. In chronic also you can give. What happens? Yeah. Okay. You have to know that acute we usually use metoprolol. This propranolol, but the action of this beta blocker, they acting on this pulmonary trunk or pulmonary artery, the action is little less known. So that's why how they actually reduce it. It is by third. I'll write it here. Propranolol will again they'll cause decrease in, or they call increase in SVR on the chronically. Both beta blockers and all, they tend to increase the systemic vascular resistance. How we can use? That's how we can use. But if asked that propranolol acting on that pulmonary artery, that is less known. That mechanism is less known. If it is acting or helping you immediately or on the chronic way, it is going to be acting by increasing the systemic vascular resistance. Okay. Coming back to the synoptic spell, let's write the synoptic spell here in this way. You have seen these two features of cyanotic spell. One is disappearance of murmur, which was ejection systolic murmur. Okay, cyanosis, and then next hyperapnea. If these three things are there, that's when we call it a cyanotic spell. Now, why do you think the murmur got disappeared? The murmur got disappeared because of this right to left shunt happening, entire the blood is going through what? Through aorta only. So hardly there is anything which is going through pulmonary. And whatever the ejection systolic murmur which I told that we'll be able to hear, that is because of what? Pulmonary, that is because of increased blood flow in that pulmonary stenosis area. Now what is happening? Because of drop in SVR, entire blood is going through the aorta only. Okay, mixed. So that is why there is disappearance of murmur. And okay, we shall write this like this in a triangle. Okay, disappearance of murmur. Hyperapnea and cyanosis. Now, if you see here, okay, whatever the things I have written here in red, they are almost their cause. The red boxes will tell you the treatment also, but these things which I have read and I am about to like label it with now this thing highlighter, they are going to be the treatment. Once when the child has, now imagine now the child has come with cyanotic spell, what is the first thing which you want to do? Next, if there is availability of oxygen, you give it of oxygen first. Okay, we shall label here this oxygen here highlighted. Okay, then if imagine it is some outside scenario where you don't have oxygen, easy access to oxygen, what you will do first? Go for niches position. That is very good way to cut off the cyanotic spell. The next important thing here as treatment, what I am showing you here or highlighting here is morphine. This morphine is being given to depress the. Now what we'll do is we shall write this again and again. Many questions, CET questions have been asked here, or NEET questions this thing have been asked here on this area regarding even the doses. Okay, so what we'll write here first, you give oxygen. Okay, next morphine. How you want to give morphine? Morphine is being given as a subcutaneous 0.2 mg per kg. Okay, subcutaneous. Okay, once when we okay, you saw here morphine. Instead of morphine, you can even use ketamine. Ketamine can be given as around 5 mg per kg. Okay, IM. Fine. Then what are the other drugs available for this? We'll see where and all they will act. But you know why this ketamine is being given. It is being given to increase the systemic vascular resistance, and even it will sedate the child, and this crying and physical exertion will go off. Okay. Then okay. So we'll see. Okay, we have written ketamine. Then another drugs, another important things which I want to tell you here is, you can see here that I have written here that there was drop in saturation of oxygen and the pH got reduced. Do you want to counteract this acidosis by soda bicarb? Soda bicarb in IV we can give to counteract the 1 to 2 mg per ml per kg. Okay, then followed by infusion. Okay, now even after this soda bicarb infusion, another important thing what you have to take care is euvolemia. Okay, now if you see how you maintain euvolemia, you can give N by 5 NS in 5% dextrose 10 ml per kg. Okay, then after this another drug which I want to tell here is metoprolol. Metoprolol you will give around 0.1 mg per kg. Okay, 0.1 mg per kg slow. Okay, then followed by infusion. Okay, then what if even after this, now the patient with giving after all this of treatment also is not able to not able to recover from the cyanotic spell. So in this kind of refractory cyanotic spell, we'll use this drug. Okay, patient doesn't improve, then we'll plan to use phenylephrine. Phenylephrine 5 mg per kg. After followed by this, you can give infusion. Okay, if there is associated anemia, we will correct with PRBC infusion if it is associated with anemia. Fine. Propranolol can be given for long standing around 0.5 to 1.5 mg per kg. Okay, as a prophylaxis. .5 to 1.5 mg per kg as prophylaxis. Okay, fine. So here we complete the cyanotic spell.